So one of the most compelling development challenges of all times is climate change. We've seen the impact on climate on many things, on food systems, on our health, on infrastructure, on people, on jobs, and I can go on and on and on and on. And Uganda, our beautiful country, the Pearl of Africa, is no exception. Our country has been impacted on climate in a number of ways. We've seen flooding, we've seen drought in certain spaces, we've seen rains take away our roads. But what is important is not to look at the glass half empty, but the glass half full. What can we do about it? Noting that our country is very vulnerable to climate change and also one of the least prepared to adapt to it. So as UNDP, we have a promise to the people of Uganda, and there are 4 things that I wanted to talk about very briefly on some of the things that we have been doing to support the people of Uganda. First of all, we are supporting the enabling conditions, the policies, the legal instruments, the regulations that can advance the climate cause. And one of the things that we've been doing under this rubric is our support the nationally determined contributions, for short NDC, and by helping Uganda to put forward a very ambitious target of 24.7% to reduce its greenhouse gas emissions by 2030. The second thing we have been doing is promoting tourism and using Uganda's nature to advance the climate cause. Arguably, Uganda is one of the most beautiful countries on earth. I invite you to come and see Uganda, the Pearl of Africa. And yesterday, for the very first time, we launched our first documentary. It's an award-winning documentary that has already won 3 awards globally, and Rwenzori, the Source of Life. And what we do with the Rwenzori, the Source of Life, we tell the stories around the Rwenzoris, snow-capped, breathtaking, beautiful mountains, which promotes Uganda's tourism, but also facing climate impacts. We have seen the beautiful glaciers melt like never before. And when the glaciers melt, they have impact on food systems, on jobs, on water security, and many, many more. And for those wonderful people who live around the mountains, who depend on the mountains for their livelihoods, when the glaciers melt and the beautiful snow goes, we don't have a snow-capped Rwenzori mountain anymore. And so we are using this as an advocacy tool to ensure that we bring attention to the beautiful mountains, but also address the climate change issues around that. We also did run, together with our partners, Equator Hikes and other private sector actors in the government of Uganda, 2 years in a row now, the Rwenzori Marathon. And the Rwenzori Marathon is very powerful. We again tell the story around the Rwenzori and the need for us to conserve the ecosystems around Rwenzori, but also at the same time using the tourism potential to be able to create jobs. And I think the last time we went to Rwenzori to run the run, all the hotels were full. It tells you that tourism has a potential from the economic side, but also on the environmental side, we need to address the issue. And only a few weeks ago, we were very excited to run again, for the very first time, the UNDP Elgon Half Marathon with Cheptegei in the Elgon region. Here again, we showcase the beautiful Elgon ranges. Very powerful story around that. Biodiversity there, trees, waterfalls, amazing space, CP and many more are there. But we also see the huge deforestation and biodiversity loss. And so the call for action as we run that marathon was for people to make sure that we conserve the Elgons because it has great potential for us. So again, using tourism, nature, to be able to tell the story in a very powerful way. And I should say, as I conclude on this one, UNDP just launched its Nature Pledge by our administrator, Achim Steiner. And Uganda is one of those countries that we are also activating that Nature Pledge. And we're going to use our nature and our powerful story to tell the story not only about this beautiful country, but why we need to protect it and why we need to ensure that we push forward with our climate actions. The third thing that we have been doing, and we are very excited about it as UNDP, is advancing and promoting just energy transition. And this is very critical for Uganda, for Africa, and for the world. And I should say, only 3 or 4 days ago, UNDP launched its first electric car, And I drove that car myself, and we told a story. Again, an advocacy story around for us to shift away from fossil fuels. But also beyond just about launching this electric car, it's also engaging with the government of Uganda and our partners to look at the value chain around e-mobility. And especially for a country like Uganda, which sits on a number of minerals that allows us to produce the batteries of the future to advance just energy transition, but also even the cars. So from the lithium to the rare earth to graphite to manganese, these are spaces that we also have in conversations around. But also importantly, we have the sun. And so we are promoting solarization, especially with our social institutions. And here again, I should say that we've solarized a number of schools, health centers, markets. Owino Market, for example, the biggest in East Africa, is solarized now through our efforts. Also Nakasero and other markets that are coming up. Again, we are trying to say that, and we've shown proof of concept that it's cheaper sometimes to use some of these energy sources, and we're calling upon the private sector, but also the public sector to also advance this sort of course and also invest in this thing that we are doing. And so very exciting work that we are doing, also using social tariffs, working with the Energy Regulation Authority of Uganda, but also the government of Uganda, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development and other actors. We have demonstrated through the work done by our Accelerator Lab that in fact it's cheaper for you to use electricity. We just need to provide the right incentives. So the social tariffs also have been put in place, and this is part of the work that we have been doing, and we do hope that with people using a lot of social tariffs or applying the social tariffs, we are able to go to scale. Finally, we are supporting ecosystem restoration. This is at the heart of what the people of Uganda are doing. We are very excited that we are supporting the Presidential Initiative on Wetlands, and through partnership with the government of Uganda, the Green Climate Fund and UNDP, we have one of the largest portfolio of work around wetland restoration in this country, in Eastern Uganda and also in Western Uganda. But also in forest, there's huge forest degradation in the country, and what we have put in place is a digital system that allows us to be able to monitor in real time the loss when it comes to forest loss, how much forest are we losing, and this is something that we're also doing. And this platform is called NARIS, Natural Resource Information System, which we also have put in place. So, great work happening in Uganda, supported by UNDP. It is part of our climate promise. It is part of our nature promise to the people of Uganda. And as I conclude, the call for action to all of us, as we have a few days to go to the 28th session of the Conference of Parties, COP28, as we call it. I call upon all of us at individual level, at societal level, at government level, private sector, and the public sector, all of us to rally around the climate cause. It is something that is not in the air. We are feeling it, we are seeing it, it's palpable, and we must all try to do our best to push forward with climate actions, both from our adaptation side, but also from the mitigation side. And thank you very much for listening to me.